morning, everybody. Paul Diebold, Irvington Historical Society. Matt is our cameraman. Matt, give him a wave. There you go. Turned out to be a great morning. First morning we've done this where it was actually forecast to be sunny, so we're off to a great start. Hope everyone's having a great day. We're here in Irvington, and we're here on Hawthorne Lane, and behind me is a very significant house. And it probably now in retrospect looks like a fairly ordinary bungalow style house. But in fact, this house is the only known house designed by Gustav Stickley's Craftsman Home Builders Club. If you know arts and crafts furniture, that name Gustav Stickley should have some resonance with you. Gustav Stickley was a key figure in the arts and crafts movement. His magazine, The Craftsman, publicized the idea of the bungalow. Now, the bungalow was a revolutionary house form at the turn of the century. The house behind me was built in 1909. The bungalow was a new idea. It was very different than the Queen Anne Victorian style houses that were being built in Indianapolis at that time. And the house behind me is a very important part of Indianapolis architectural history because it shows this transition from Indianapolis being a city of Victorian homes to really being a city of craftsmen, what we call craftsman homes. The bungalow idea came from India. That's actually an English mispronunciation of the native term for a common house type that had a porch on all sides. So this house type was emulated in England and eventually in the United States, but was found at first was kind of thought to be not proper for permanent habitation. It would be fine for a vacation house. Well, by the turn of the century, tastes in housing and architecture were changing, and the way people were living in houses was changing greatly. So the idea of the living room that we take for granted now originated at this time when people began to realize that families were living together, spending time together. And so the bungalow accommodated that. The bungalow was just very new in Indianapolis. So in 1909, the house behind me was built. It was built by Carlos and Ann Recker. Ann was actually, her maiden name was Butler. That name should have some resonance with you. In fact, the house she grew up in might have even been visible just to the south here, almost due south, is where her father, Scott Butler, had built a giant Second Empire style house where she grew up. She attended Butler, as did Carlos Butler here in Irvington, and that's probably where they met. The Stickley connection probably comes from Carlos's business, Sander and Recker Furniture Company, which was exclusive dealers in Stickley's Craftsman furniture. They had offices and showrooms downtown. That's probably where he became acquainted with this idea. Stickley started his magazine, and then shortly after a few years, he realized that the style of house that people were putting the furniture in didn't seem to really go. I'm going to show you what this craftsman idea is. This is actually a house design concept from the Craftsman magazine, and you could order plans. If you subscribed to the Craftsman magazine, you could order plans for free from the Craftsman Home Builders Club. And you can see here's a nice Morris chair here in a Craftsman interior. This design's from about 1905. So what we found then, there was a very interesting article in the Indianapolis Star in 1909 that credited Stickley with the design and said that the Reckers got the idea from the Craftsman Home Builders Club. I did a little bit of digging and found in 1905 is where they had originally published the house plans that are most similar to this house. And actually the Avery Library at Columbia University in New York City has the plans, the prototype plans, not the exact plans for this house, but the prototype plans for this house. So then they took those plans, and I was able to trace the plans to the magazine. They built this house. One of the things that's very typical about the arts and crafts style, this is not a pretentious house. It's very simple in its architecture. Plain boards on the first floor. Originally those were stained wood. Shingles on the second floor. And this very plain architecture. The sweeping roof is really kind of the dominant feature of this house. And that is something that's very much part of the arts and crafts movement. So, and this very much transformed the city of Indianapolis. We have so many bungalow neighborhoods in Indianapolis now, and Irvington is really one of our great bungalow neighborhoods. So, a part of Irvington, is really where that movement started, with houses in the arts and crafts style. This house has been really nicely restored. Another interesting fact about this house, we've mentioned before at earlier broadcasts, we were at the Benton House, and that was a house of one of the presidents of Butler University. This house had a later owner, Robert J. Alley, that was the last president of Butler during Butler's Irvington years. So he was actually the one who made the transition from Butler being here in Irvington to being in its current location. The Alleys owned this house in the 1920s. They actually bought it from the Wreckers. The Wreckers had moved to another part of Indianapolis by that time. We were very fortunate to find a real treasure trove. I was at a meeting, an elderly woman approached me and she said, I know that house you're talking about, would you like to have historic pictures of it? And I said, yes, we would like to have historic color pictures of the house in 1940. They showed the original color scheme, which the current owners have duplicated. They showed missing interior features, which the owners have tried to restore over the years. So that is it for our lesson. As we're going to pan around here, we're going to turn around the other side of the street and see, indeed, the bungalow did conquer Indianapolis. Across the street, there are all these wonderful bungalow houses here on Hawthorne Lane. They're all very intact, and we're here just in the heart of Irvington. And this part of the neighborhood really is dominated by the bungalow, and it all started with the 1909 house that is just behind me. So I'm going to wrap up here. We appreciate your past support of us. If you can at all, please visit our website and make a donation. We appreciate it very greatly. We'll try to answer your questions. I'm sure there have been many questions as we've been broadcasting here, and we'll try to get to them all. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.